Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. There's no point growing your own food and then feeling swamped when all the abundance comes in. In today's video, we're going to take a look at what's just come out of the garden and what needs to be picked and talk through ways to make the most of the harvest. I've been out recently to finish harvesting my chilies, the eggplants and tomatoes. I did grab some zucchinis at the time, but there's still a few on those plants and they're hanging in there, so I'll leave them as long as possible. But let's take a look and see what I've managed to do with that harvest. One of my favourite ways to use eggplant is in a Mediterranean chutney. I use water bath canning so it will store in the pantry. Another way is to make big batches of ratatouille and freeze them in these little cubes, which I then store in Ziploc bags. You can just grab these out as needed. I'll defrost and use them as a side dish, or I'll add when frying up mince for breakfast. Quick, easy and delicious. When I just harvested all the eggplants, I made a really lovely eggplant curry that I found online, and I still have some eggplants that I need to do something with. So I've grabbed out the recipe books and have found a Moroccan style eggplant salad that I might try. And then in this beautiful Indian cookbook by Rick Stein, I found another delicious looking recipe. So I'm going to give that one a go as well. Now when I have an excess of chilies, I like to make sweet chili sauce if I've got red chilies. This one is a fermented chili relish, which is really delicious and that lasts for ages. It's fermented in olive oil. But mostly what I do with my chilies, other than using in preserving recipes, is just to put them into Ziploc bags and freeze them whole. When I need chilies throughout the year, I just take them out and cut them up while frozen, as they do go mushy when thawed, and then use them in cooking recipes. One of my favourite ways to preserve tomatoes is by making tomato salsa, which is a fermented product. But I do have a video showing a couple of other ways I like to preserve my tomatoes. But I've usually got a whole year's worth of this in my fridge. Now, what's happening in the winter garden? At the moment, I've got quite a few heads of broccoli that really need to be harvested. If I leave them much longer, they're just going to start to flower and deteriorate. So now's the time to be grabbing these. So I'm going to get them and take them to the kitchen along with some of my other winter veg. In addition to these 4 beautiful heads, I've got one just hiding up the back there as well. I do have various plants with sprouts on them. These are the sprouting broccoli variety, but you cut the main head off and then you're left with these coming up all the time, which are really great in stir fries. So I'll be leaving those today and concentrating my efforts on dealing with these beautiful big broccoli heads. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This one is slightly smaller. I will be leaving these plants in the ground as is. I do like to utilise the broccoli leaves just chopped up in stir fries, and some of the plants are sprouting broccoli. Now I can't remember which ones. I have planted Waltham broccoli and also the Italian sprouting, so I'll just leave it and it will be food regardless of what it grows. Okay, that's all the broccoli harvested. Let's go and check out the cauliflower. Now this garden bed here, I did plant in February, so they've been in the ground for 3 months and they're coming close to being able to be harvested. I've got cabbages that are nearly ready. I've got leeks and radishes in the ground that are just about ready. But today we're going to be having a look at the cauliflower. Now I do have some not so impressive cauliflower, and I don't think that's going to get any better, so I'm going to be taking that today and just making a cauliflower rice with it. But the one I'm super excited about is this beautiful head of cauliflower right here. Like the broccoli, they reach a certain point where they just should be harvested, or they do start to sort of go to flower more, open up and start to deteriorate. So I'm going to take that now . And that is beautiful. Now I'll be taking the broccoli leaves in to use in the kitchen, but I'm not going to use these leaves for the collie. So I'm going to just remove those and give them straight to the chickens. There you go. The chickens are now in where I had grown my pumpkins, and true to form, they've found some that I didn't realise was there. There's another sort of spotty looking one hiding in amongst here. So I could probably bring that one inside. They've got this one which was just a young pumpkin coming along, so they've made a start on that, so I'll leave that for them. There's another young pumpkin there, and I'm going to see how long they'll leave that one for. And hiding in here is another spotty pumpkin which they haven't found yet, so I'm quite happy to leave it here, and when they are hungry they've got some pumpkin to enjoy. And I'll just grab this one for the collie rice. Now let's head this way and we'll find some radishes. One vegetable that I'm not quite used to and I've just started to grow in the garden is radishes. Now the little red ones I've been growing for a while, and I slice those up into salads or pickle them. But these days I'm growing heirloom radishes, and they come in different shapes and sizes. So today we're going to pick a few of what I've got growing. Over here I've got a large Spanish radish which is ready to pick, so we're going to get that one out. Look at that, a beautiful size. And we'll take that to the kitchen and work out what we're going to do with it. But I do have a few more radishes that I want to collect today as well. Now these are the ones that I'm used to growing and using, so I'm going to grab those. The third variety of radish is just this one here, and it's the beautiful watermelon radish, which, oh, it's already split, but we'll take that inside. I'm sure that will be okay to add to a salad. We've had quite a bit of rain here lately, and I've noticed it in the garden, especially with the radishes. They've put on a lot of size and some of them are splitting. So it's really time to be moving them on, getting them to the kitchen to make the most of them. Now this here is a large purple radish. Now that is lovely. It looks like it's getting some insect damage. Hopefully we're still good to go with using that. I'm not sure, I haven't had the purple radish before. I'm not sure if it's a peppery one or more like a daikon radish, but we'll soon find out. Okay, I'm just going to take those to the tap and give them a rinse before we go inside. They look beautiful when the sun comes out. That's all I'm going to grab for the moment. I will be back later to grab some of these salad greens because I think this watermelon radish will be perfect in a salad. But I'm going to make the most of all of this produce and show you what I've done with it. Now let's get started with our radishes. The beautiful watermelon radish and one of these red radishes I'm going to put into a lovely salad. All three will be going into a garlic roasted radish dish, and half of this big purple one is going to go into a coleslaw. Now the radish greens can be eaten, and for most of it I'm just going to throw to the chickens because I've got lots of other greens, but I might just save the smaller young leaves and chop them up and pop them in with my salad. That's all I'll use for the salad. I'll pop that over with my salad greens. Now all I'm going to do with these radishes is just thinly slice them. Look at that beautiful colour in the watermelon radish. You can see why it's named a watermelon radish. I'll just cut this end off because it's split, but this should be fine. Now I'll just wash my greens and get them all ready to go. I'm just going to finally slice these radish greens. I'm not sure if they're peppery or not peppery, but I figure we'll spread the flavour around until we know what we're dealing with. And add my radishes. And now to make some dressing. Into olive oil I add some lemon juice, black pepper and a little bit of salt. Then I add in some of my honey mustard that I've made and give it a really good shake up and it's ready. And finally just add our mustard dressing and just toss around a little bit. Now with these 3 radishes, I'm just going to take the tops off. Again, saving some of those young leaves because they will look nice, shredded up and put on the top of this dish. And I'm going to have this big one here. It looks a bit like a daikon radish inside. And I'm just going to cut these into sort of uniform sized pieces. Cut the leaves off. Now I'm going to leave the skin on. I'm not sure whether you do or not, but I'm going to leave it on and just see how we go. So I'm pretty rough with my pieces. Now all we do with these is add some salt, pepper, and then your cooking oil. I've just got some melted tallow there. That's the cooking oil I like to use. I don't like to heat olive oil. And then into your baking dish and into the oven. And that might be 20-25 minutes just until it's done. Now with this radish, which actually tastes fairly mild, I've just had a piece. It tastes a bit like daikon radish, so it's quite lovely. I'm just going to make little matchstick size pieces and do a quick pickle. Into a bowl. Give that a quick mix around. To make the quick pickle, I'm just going to add the salt. I'll leave the link to the recipe in the description. Some water. The recipe calls for rice wine vinegar, but I'm just going to use apple cider vinegar. And the recipe also calls for 1/4 cup of sugar, but I'm just going to use a smaller amount of honey. It's just going to be a quick pickle that I use pretty much straight away. Once it all has dissolved, you just leave it for a couple of hours just to develop flavours and then you can enjoy. Now onto the broccoli. With my first broccoli head, I'll remove the leaves but reserve those for other dishes. We're making a broccoli side dish, so first up is cutting the broccoli into serving size pieces. Now we need to heat up the cooking oil before adding the broccoli into the pan. Just give it a toss to make sure it's all coated with the oils and heating through. I'm adding a teaspoon of garlic paste to the mix and a squeeze of lemon and a bit of salt and pepper. Give it a toss around again. Toasted pumpkin seeds are great in this dish, so I just toast them till they're popping and then add them into our broccoli. Into a serving dish, and I usually just add in a little bit more olive oil right at the end. The other 3 broccoli heads I'll be using during the week for soup, stir fry, chopped up in my breakfast and just as a veggie side dish. The radishes have been cooking for about 25 minutes, so they're ready to come out, and now I'm just going to garnish them with a little bit of our chopped up radish leaves, and I've also added in a little bit of parsley into the mix too, which adds a bit to nutrition and the flavour as well. I'm just adding some fermented garlic paste to this dish as well, so you just need to stir that in really well, and that's our baked radish dish ready. And now onto the cauliflower. I'm going to be making a cauliflower and sweet potato curry, and to go with that I'm adding the cauliflower rice but throwing in some broccoli as well. Now the recipe for the curry will be in the description, but basically I've got some shredded ginger and some of the garlic paste, some cumin and some curry powder, and it's 1 whole onion chopped, some of my tomatoes that I've canned from a different season, and we just need to cut our cauliflower into little florets. With the sweet potato, just cut that into chunks. Heat up the cooking oil before adding in the onion, which you just want to caramelise. So just on a gentle heat, just caramelise that for 5 minutes or so, along with the ginger and the garlic. Once that's caramelised, you just need to add in the spices and give it a good stir. And we can add in our tomatoes. A can of tomatoes is what's called for. So that's kind of one of my mason jars worth. And some stock. I'm using a lamb stock that I've got. And in goes our vegetables, the cauliflower and the sweet potatoes, and that's left for 15 minutes or so, just on a gentle heat to simmer until it's tender. While our curry is simmering, we're going to get on to our rice. So I've broken up the broccoli and cauli into pieces, and I add it into my food processor. The food processor quickly converts it into our veggie rice. Once again, heat up some oil in the pan before adding it all in, salt and pepper to taste, and giving it a bit of a stir until it's cooked through. Back to our curry. The recipe calls for a half a cup or so of frozen peas, or you could use fresh if you've got them, and you just need to continue to simmer it to cook those. And once it's all cooked through, into a serving dish, and I just have garnished it with a bit of coriander that's been chopped up. And our banquet is served fresh from the garden. What an amazing way to celebrate the harvest. Well, I hope this video has inspired you to see what's growing in the garden, then check the recipes, whether it's in a cookbook you've got on the shelf or online. You might just find something new and exciting to try. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.